Welcome to episode 178 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Frontrunners edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host. I'm with my co-host, a computer genius, iRacing Indy 500 champion, a gentleman, a scholar, and one of the biggest fans of the Jacksonville Jaguars. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. Of course, glad to be back for another week, talk about racing and all things that happened this past week, and, ready to get into it.
Yeah, we're definitely busy weekend last weekend and going into this weekend itself. Indy cars were at Toronto, saw Christian Lundgaard get his first career win. NASCAR Cup Series was rained out to Monday, but Martin Truex Jr. at one of his 18 home tracks finally won there for the first time in a Cup car. What was not a bad race behind him, really, to be fair. Then John Hunter Nemechek got his second consecutive win. Really wasn't much of a battle for him. The Roundup, pretty busy. We'll talk about SRX, Formula E, World Superbikes, NHRA on starting their Western Swing, FIA Formula 2, Formula 3, WRC Indy NXT, and IMSA GTD going on this Saturday at Lime Rock. We'll spend probably about 5 minutes previewing the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then spend a little more time previewing the Hy-V Iowa doubleheader. It's hard to make a overall pick because it's two different races, but we'll see what happens with that. And preview and make picks for Pocono Raceway this weekend, which I'm actually going to be able to go for the first time in 4 years. I'll actually be going to a race, so that'll actually be cool. I'll be going with people that haven't ever been before, so it'll be even better. And for once, the weather actually is cooperating. So as of now, knock on that, Friday's probably going to get rained out, so everything that's supposed to be done on Friday is going to get moved. But Saturday should be good, and Sunday looks all right. Josh will let us know all things going on in the world of iRacing and gaming in his sim segment, and we'll call it a day. First, let's get into the Honda Grand Prix of Toronto, which saw Christian Lundgaard go and win his first career IndyCar race, first win for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing since the 2020 Indianapolis 500, when Takuma Sato was around, and also was a great deal for Lundgaard. His best friend was there, pretty emotional, leading into his main sponsor's race this coming weekend. So great timing there. He had to make a pass on the probably de facto IndyCar champion for 2023 in Alex Palou, who had broken his wing in an incident with Helio Castro-Neves and Kyle Kirkwood, but still was able to hold on, mainly because of the wrap on the car. Christian Lundgaard ended up winning the race by 11.78 seconds over Palou. Colton Herta finished third, just over 15 seconds behind. Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden round out the top five. Scott McLaughlin was sixth, Marcus Armstrong seventh, Pato O'Ward, Graham Rahal from dead last to ninth, and Felix Rosenqvist rounded out the top 10. There were 15 cars on the lead lap. There were 4 cars that were taken out, or 5 essentially in a first lap incident. Jack Harvey, Tom Blomqvist, Brian Hunter-Reay, Benjamin Peterson, and Devlin DeFrancesco all basically were affected by that. And Blomqvist has one of the shortest debuts in the history of IndyCar racing. I think 900 meters or something was his total debut. I forget who it was. There used to be, they would talk about somebody in Formula One going back in the early 90s that his debut lasted only a few hundred meters. So pretty bad for Blomqvist, but I think he's going to be able to get longer distance next year when he jumps in to one of those Meyer-Shank cars. But Lundgaard was up there all weekend. He got the pole. Big deal for Rahal Letterman Lanigan, considering how bad they've been at times this year, especially on ovals, and then in general, how far off they've been for a few years. Graham hasn't won a race since 2017. Of course, Sato came in and won a couple of races for them three races, I think, for them when he was driving for the team. One at Portland, one at Gateway on strategy, and then won the Indianapolis 500 heads up against Scott Dixon. But it's been hasn't been great ever since Sato left, and in turn, it's been a rough time for them to go and make things happen. But in this weekend, at a track where Bob Rahal won the original first race at Toronto back in 1986, bringing it back old school, Christian Lundgaard goes and shaves his mustache and gets his first career win, Josh. It was pretty dominant, I got to say. And it was a solid race, to be fair, and a lot of strategy and stuff going on, but he was a cut above on Sunday and over the entire weekend.
Yeah, I mean, for Christian Lundgaard, very convincing win, first career win in IndyCar, of course, and also, for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, like you said, their first victory since 2017, or 2020, actually. They won the Indy 500, of course, with Takuma Sato back then, but, they had a lot of struggles since then, and, of course, their struggles, of course, I think this year probably culminated in Graham Rahal failing to qualify for the Indy 500 initially, so they've been pretty good since then. They've began to get better in pace, and we've seen some better runs from them the last couple of races since that effort that they had at Indianapolis. So now Lundgaard goes out, dominates the whole weekend, and goes out and shaves his mustache finally. So we've seen what he could do in the past. He had a great debut qualifying effort back in 2021 with his first career race in IndyCar. So we know what his talent is here, and now finally showing the fruits of that, and now finally winning an IndyCar race. So, very convincing win, of course, 11 seconds over Alex Palou. Of course, Palou continuing to lead the championship, and now his win streak broken, but he still finished second. So, if he couldn't win, second's the best thing, next best thing there, and added 7 points to his championship lead. So not quite as much, but definitely enough to continue to add to the lead as they go into Iowa next week. So this was a pretty interesting race, from a strategy standpoint. We saw the strategy take place, between Lundgaard, Palou, McLaughlin, Dixon, all kind of trading points, during that sequence. We saw McLaughlin lead a handful of laps on an alternate strategy to try to make it to the end. Lundgaard, on his strategy, being able to make it to the finish, and then of course Palou was kind of on that same strategy too, and hopefully, was hoping to make it to the finish, and then of course ran into the damage with his wing the last handful of laps there, and somehow still managed to finish second. So tells you how good Alex Palou is when he has downforce issues with a twisted wing on the front, being able to wheel that thing into second place at the end. So a fairly strategic race here. I mean, we did add the pile up to start off the race, but other than that, pretty straightforward race here at Toronto this past weekend.
Yeah, and more passing at places where we usually don't see overtakes at Toronto, not just turn 3, but at turn 4, and even in some cases turn 1. Rahal, give credit to Rahal for putting the car in reverse, keeping the thing running, and going through the Princess Gate to get around the wreck to keep himself on the lead lap. And that helped his day. Agustin Canapino gets a 12th place finish. Teammate, of course, is Callum Ilott, and he had issues late in the race, but they were running up front. They were running together, basically. So credit to him, the rookie, and trying to keep it close with Marcus Armstrong, who's not running the ovals. You look at Kyle Kirkwood. He had avoidable contact with Helio Castro-Neves, and that basically ruined his race because he was in a position based on when he pitted that he could have gotten out in front of Lundgaard, could have gotten out in front of McLaughlin, because all three of them were on different strategies, and basically par for the course with Andretti Autosport. If they're not like dick stepping themselves in pit road, the driver's doing it. If it's not the driver or the team, there's a mechanical, or they crash like Romain Grosjean does every week. But then that's Romain Grosjean. I think it's a good thing he has a Lamborghini contract, because he sure as hell isn't going to have an IndyCar ride next year. I mean, you look at some of these guys. You got Pato O'Ward, who started third but ends up finishing eighth. Yeah, Rosenquist. Those two guys are fast all weekend. The Andretti Autosport cars with Herta, Kirkwood were fast. For Grosjean, they were all fast, but they weren't able to pay it off. And then you look at Palou coming from 15th, didn't even make it out of Q1. And I mean, Newgarden barely made it into Q2. And then, I mean, McLaughlin, if there's one person other than Kirkwood that probably feels aggrieved, it's Scott McLaughlin, because their pit strategy was not good. He didn't come in with Lundgaard. If he had, then there might have been a little more of a battle because they were keeping each other pretty honest. Granted, Lundgaard, I think, had him, but you live and you learn. 2 oval races coming up here this weekend at Iowa Speedway, total of 550 laps around the 7/8 mile oval. That is Iowa Speedway, basically the high V market. They redid the whole entire place, really, with all the stands and stuff. Alex Palou leads by 117 points over his teammate Scott Dixon. Dixon has a 9-point lead on Joseph Newgarden, the Indianapolis 500 champion. Dixon has a 25-point lead on Marcus Ericsson, who won, of course, at St. Pete to start the year. Pato O'Ward's a point behind Ericsson. McLaughlin is at 258, so he's 42 points behind Dixon. I'm not even bothering to count. We know that he's way behind Palou. Lundgaard now is in the mix. He's gotten up to 7th in points. Top 10's pretty solid. It doesn't, unless some weird stuff happens. If Kirkwood maybe wins another race, or by some chance Rosenquist wins, then there might be some adjustments. But really, the top 10 looks like what it's going to be. There might be some shuffling within that, because from 6th on through 10th is only 28 points. So we'll see what happens. 2 races, and it's on a short oval. So, and it's a key time in the IndyCar season for sure to go and try to make something happen, get yourself in the mix to try and win this championship, or put yourself in a position to win the championship. Which, I mean, to be completely honest, Palou has basically got one hand on it. Lundgaard dominated. McLaughlin was the other major leader, and that was it. I mean, that was basically where it was at. Pit stop sequences saw Dixon and Ericsson lead, but otherwise it was Christian Lundgaard's weekend. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see what they can do on an oval this weekend. But it's more about, I think they're holding out for after Iowa. The next 2 races after that, and 3 or 4 of the last 5 races, which will be all either street or road courses. So opportunities for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan to add to their win total at that point. We'll move on to the Cup Series. I'll just make one piece there. I think what was his name? Pruitt put up that Linus Lundqvist, the defending Indy Lights or Indy NXT champion, is going to make his debut. Doesn't say which team, but probably, I would assume that if we're looking at the opportunities for him, it's probably Ed Carpenter. Maybe Rahal puts out a 4th car, maybe, but I don't think so. They're not good enough to really be doing that. Possibility of Ganassi with the oval, but I think they already, Sato has a contract, so it can't be there. I don't think Andretti's going to overextend themselves. I know it's just basically try out to see if we can get an Andretti ride, which he'd look pretty good in DHL colors, I would think. Dale Coyne, of course, needs to look for 2 drivers, so he would be one that they'd have to find funding, and they have the funding from on the Rick Ware side, so he'd be a good signing. I'm sure. Really, it's either Ed Carpenter or Dale Coyne that I think would have that opportunity for Linus Lundqvist. At least 2 races. and probably 3, he says, based on the report. The other bit of news coming out here is that Simon Pagenaud still hasn't gotten over his concussion at Mid-Ohio after that huge wreck, which is a disturbing sign. It's kind of ironic you're going to Pocono. Last year at Pocono was essentially the crash that probably ended Kurt Busch's career in qualifying. And that set a bunch of things in motion, which included bringing Tyler Reddick over a year early to drive the 45 car. But Simon Pagenaud having that concussion protocol, not being able to get back in the car, he will have a couple of weeks to give himself some more rest so that he can be ready for the race at Nashville. So hopefully he'll be all right. Thinking of him, hopefully he'll be okay. And he obviously has options in sports cars with Honda. I mean, Wayne Taylor Andretti is going to run a second Acura car next year. MSR likely is going to Colin Braun might stay, so I would hope he does, but then they need another driver. Pagenaud would probably be a great fit there. So we'll see what happens with that as we go along. The Crayon 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway saw that Truex kid from Marietta, New Jersey, get his first career win at New Hampshire in the Cup car. He had never won there before somehow. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when it was raining and they started the race and he crashed in turn 1 with Kyle Busch. That was pretty stupid. Wasn't their fault, but it was just similar to what the great Brian Barnhart did, the double birds from Willpower and all. And it also happened in New Hampshire. Truex absolutely destroyed everybody. The next closest leader in terms of laps led, he led 254 of the race's 301 laps. The next closest driver was Austin Dillon, who was on an alternative strategy and somehow or another made it work and got up to 9th, which probably was one of his best finishes, not his best finish the whole entire freaking year. Harvick led 10 laps. Will Byron led 9. But really it was Truex. Blaney, I think, had the second best car. You could make an argument also for Christopher Bell, but they really effed things up in terms of strategies and stuff, and it really, from that moment on, it went sideways and kept on going downhill for Bell at one of his best racetracks, so a lost opportunity there for the 20 car. Kyle Busch was completely out to lunch the whole entire weekend. He wrecked they made the comment on Sirius Radio earlier that I think he wrecked in every day he wrecked in that car. Like he wrecked, or every session, like he wrecked in practice, he wrecked in qualifying, and then he wrecked in the race. So definitely a write-off weekend for Kyle Busch. It's a good thing you have 3 wins there. I'll go into the results, of course. Truex wins over Joey Logano, 2-time winner at New Hampshire, trying for his 3rd. Kyle Larson 3rd. Kevin Harvick 4th. Had a slow pit stop, his last pit stop, and he wasn't happy about it. Not like they were going to win the race, but I think, give Harvick track position, you never know. Brad Keselowski, top 5, one of his better racetracks. Tyler Reddick 6th. Dennis Hamlin 7th. Darrell Wallace Jr. 8th, so a whole 23-11 sandwich there. Dillon and then Chase Briscoe's first top 10 since Talladega in April. Tells you how bad that team has been. But he got track position. Richard Boswell put 2 tires on him. One of them cautions, got him up there. Car was racy. They had good cars. I mean, Eric Almirola was leading the race, and Blickensderfer told him that all the lugs were tight. And then he goes into 1 and 2, and the right rear wheel falls off, and he hits the fence. So, I mean, come on now. That's really bad. And I mean, I'm no fan of Eric Almirola, but the guy, this is one of his better racetracks. He needs a win to get in. You can't have that in these situations. And Blickensderfer's kind of had this his entire career. I mean, his pit crew failed miserably, and then they didn't admit it. they could have saved his car and he could have gotten a finish out of it. Going and wrecking and finishing 34th does nothing for him. I mean, granted, at this point, where all the Stewart-Haas cars are sans Harvick, you're going to have to win. Another person that I think is going to have to win is William Clyde Elliott II. He ended up 12th, but got no stage points. Supposedly from, I think Larry Mack said that on Sirius Radio earlier. He's on that Chase Elliott, or it may have been John Roberts, one of them, that he's only scored stage points in 4 races this year that he's run. William Clyde Elliott II. So this has been an off year before you take into account the injury, getting suspended for a race, for hooking Hamlin at the 600. It's definitely not the Chase Elliott that people are used to, being a contender, Final 4, Final 8 contender as he has been over the last few years. Hendrick Motorsports is scuffling a little bit, but this is not one of their best racetracks, and they're probably really glad that they don't have New Hampshire in the playoff anymore, because it would have exposed them a bit more. But Truex goes out there, 3rd win of 2023, and after a year where he missed the playoffs, finished 17th in points, the possibility and likelihood, it seems like he's going to be quitting if he can put it all together at the end of this year. Big deal for him to get this win at one of his 18 home tracks, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of Martin Truex Jr.'s actual home tracks. I mean, his other one's Dover, but first Cup start here. I think his family also has a lot of history here. So, or well, not first Cup start, but first debut in Cup, replacing Dale Jr. in 2004. You know, it's been a long career since then for him in the Cup Series. But Truex now dominating, finally winning for the first time here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So, yeah, just a thoroughly convincing performance from him. And every time we think of the 19 like not being a contender, really, they end up coming out and dominating the race and being a contender for this championship. Quietly, a contender now for the title. I mean, now he's assumed the points lead, so over William Byron, and so he has a good shot to maintain that now going into the summer stretch before the playoffs. So we'll see if he's able to keep that spot and hold it, atop the standings. Which, I mean, we have a lot of opportunities for drivers to get in via wins. A lot of opportunities for drivers to make mistakes and fall out of contention on points. So there'll be a lot to see here in this. But yeah, Truex getting his 3rd win this season. So we think of him as a contender now. I think it's safe to say he's solidly locked in. So I expect to see him maybe in the Final 4 at the end of the year after missing the playoffs last year. So that should be interesting. I think we also have to talk about some of the other guys like Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace. They haven't had a good stretch of races here since Gateway. Really, they've been kind of off the mark. They had a good set of races leading up to that race where Bubba Wallace is getting a couple of top 10s in a row. Tyler Reddick had a handful of good races, but since Gateway, they both crashed out of that one, and they really have been kind of off the map. They kind of disappeared, and now finally their first top 10 finish, I think, for both of them since Charlotte. So good result, good recovery for them. They've kind of been off since that Coke 600. So it'd be interesting to see if they can turn it around here with the stretch of races that we have coming up. Maybe the speed for Toyota as a whole. Joe Gibbs Racing has been pretty good recently, especially Truex and I think Hamlin. So we'll see if that kind of goes back into 23XI's favor here. Maybe Bubba Wallace get a win here soon to get him into the playoffs and lock him in. He's tight on points, sitting in 15th for his first playoff appearance. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, you mentioned Chase Briscoe, but let's also talk about Eric Jones. He hasn't been anywhere this season, been completely out to lunch with Legacy Motor Club, but finally getting he's on a top 10, but probably one of his better races this year, and they've quietly been doing better. They got an 8th at Nashville, 16th at Chicago, and then 11th last week at Atlanta, another 11th here at Loudon. So maybe quietly beginning to turn it around here and getting better finishes despite them being down on the totem pole at Chevrolet, moving to Toyota next year. So we'll see how that takes place there. And then, of course, Austin Dillon, he's been out to lunch this year as well with teammate Kyle Busch with his domination that he's had this year. And, of course, I think he also had to factor in his penalty that he got at Martinsville into the standings. But, he is, results-wise, kind of having a typical year, one top 5, 5 top 10s, so kind of a typical year for him. But at the same time, he's not doing great standings wise because of that. Because of that penalty, in fact. So we'll see. He's one spot in the top 30, could be a wild card driver, especially at Super Speedway or something like that, like we saw last year at Daytona. So a lot of these drivers that we don't only see, end up getting top 10s or right around that range. Do agree with you with Chase Elliott. I think it's time for him to finally get a win. He's got a lot of opportunities, of course. Got a ton of road courses left here. A couple of big tracks as well, Michigan, Pocono, Daytona coming up as well. So we'll see if he's able to get a win here. He's got to have something to be able to make the playoffs, or else he's in jeopardy of missing it after basically having 3 straight Final Four appearances. Since then, of course, injury and the suspension don't help, but they've really been off the pace this year. So we'll see if they're able to turn it around in the next coming weeks. But as we continue to go throughout the summer here, now getting to the kind of the point in the season where we have a lot of variation in track type on the schedule and produces a lot of surprise winners here. So we'll see, as we get to Daytona coming up at the end of August here, which is not that far away, about a month and a change, or month and 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens here. But a lot of things happening here in the meat of the standings, as we have one guy maybe asserting himself at the top with Martin Truex there.
Yeah. So Truex has a 17-point lead in the overall points for the 25-point bonus, but you have 6 races to go. Josh mentioned it. You have Pocono and Michigan, which are 2 big tracks. You have Richmond, short track, and there's been questionable, results with Richmond or with the short track package. But when you look at the racing they had at New Hampshire behind Martin Truex Jr., they're able to run multiple grooves. I've never seen cars go across that far and wide at New Hampshire, outside of modifieds, of course. Justin Bonsignor getting that modified victory there on Saturday night or Saturday evening. That was a good race, but they're always a good race at New Hampshire. A few weeks ago, they were here at Wall Stadium, where, of course, Truex plied his trade as a young guy. Then you have 2 road courses and then Daytona, which, we remember last year they didn't bother to throw a caution when it was raining, let everybody go in a corner and wreck 20 cars, and the guy that was 21st or 22nd or whatever the hell he was ended up making the playoffs. And Brian Blaney was the only driver on points, and he knocked out Martin Truex by like a handful of points, and Blaney had wrecked his car. His car was destroyed. So, 6 races to go. A lot can happen. The points, as we have them right now, going into Pocono, I'll bring up the whatever playoff standing itself. 11 drivers right now in with a win. Hasn't changed. You have Kevin Harvick is the leading driver without a win. He's got a 29-point lead on Brad Keselowski. Chris Buescher is 11 points behind his car owner and teammate. Those 3 guys seem to be in a pretty good position unless some weird stuff starts happening. They've all run pretty solid. Not solid yet unspectacular for all those 3 Ford drivers. Bubba is +2 to the cut line, or he's +2 +2 over Daniel Suarez, and Michael McDowell was 1 point ahead of Daniel Suarez. The Travis Mack tried to run fuel strategy and run long, hoping for a caution, and it didn't happen. Might have lost some points in the process doing that, but Suarez is in the mix there. You have AJ Allmendinger's 20 points behind McDowell, and then Keebler Gibbs 41, Alex Bowman 42. Bowman has won at Pocono before. He's won at Richmond before, so something to look at. Of course, Clyde won at Pocono last year, and he's done well at he's done well at Watkins Glen. So those are two places I think to look at for both Hendrick Motorsports guys. And I mean, right now, points-wise for Clyde, it's going to be very hard. He's, what is it? So we got 28 plus, like 60 points, 50-something points, 58, something like that, whatever. And, over the next 6 races, having to gain 10 points on Michael McDowell seems like it's possible, but you need to be gaining stage points to make it easier on yourself, and they haven't been running good enough to get stage points for whatever reason. So something to look at, and we'll get into it in more detail later on. Before we move forward, of course, there's a couple other announcements. Ryan Vargas is going to be the director of team and driver development at 3F Racing, which is, I think, a European-based team, and they've been talking about coming over here and doing stuff that's been rumored for a while. I think they were trying to bring Tarso Marquez to Cup a while back. They've been like talking about coming along and being in this series for I don't know how many, for a while. Yeah, Dennis Hertz, looking to enter NASCAR, and then 3 minutes incorporated Hertz, D2 Christian 2 close will be an option. Experienced drivers. It's a different one. And then they still talked about it. They got it back. Okay. So that's, I thought that was a Tarso Marquez ride at somebody else. But Ryan Vargas getting an opportunity possibly to get in a Cup later on this year, maybe. And then Brody Kostecki, the Australian V8 Supercars driver for Erebus Coca-Cola Racing, running ahead of Shane Van Gisbergen in points this year, is going to make his Cup Series debut at Indianapolis in a 4th RCR car, an open car, same time that Kamui Kobayashi is going to make his Cup debut for 2311 in their 67 car. So stack lineup, stack grid at Indianapolis, which is still like a month away, so it's pretty crazy. That's going to be one to watch. Getting the Xfinity, there really isn't a lot there. Am Better Health 200. John Hunter Nemechek, with his 2nd consecutive win, now has taken over the overall. I mean, he has the regular season points lead, but he also has more wins than Austin Hill. 33-point lead overall in the standings, and one more win, 6 more playoff points for him in that right now. John Hunter, it was a clinic for him as well. Justin Allgaier led the 2nd most laps. Sammy Smith, John Hunter Nemechek's teammate, was up there as well. And Chandler Smith, who started on pole. So John Hunter Nemechek, Chandler Smith, Austin Hill, Daniel Hemrick, Sammy Smith, top 5. Justin Allgaier, Jeb Burton, Josh Williams with another top 10 after having one at Atlanta. Brett Moffitt and Mason Massey in the 08 gets a top 10 finish from 33rd. Kaz Gralla in a backup car, a road course car, a really old piece from what Sam Hunt said, got a 13th place finish, so credit to him on that. Trying to look at where, Ryan Sieg got wrecked early in the race. It was a pretty bad weekend after his brakes failed. Wrecked with Anthony Alfredo and Parker Kligerman. Parker Retzlaff, who I think you picked Josh as your wild card pick, was running pretty good most of the weekend and then got taken out. Had an issue there late, unfortunately, but he ran better than where he ended up finishing. Got second in the second stage, so unfortunate for him. He's getting better week by week, and so it's good to see. But yeah, I mean, you got some of these guys that are battling for playoff position. I mean, I'm trying to see. Yeah, Jeb Burton is still outside of the top 12, so in overall points, but he Riley Herbst. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit, but John Hunter didn't win a stage, but he was the dominant figure in this race. Sammy Smith and Allgaier won the stages, but in the end, it's a Gibbs racetrack. It was a Gibbs kind of weekend at New Hampshire for John Hunter, and considering what may be going on with the 19, we might be looking at the next driver of the 19 car if things kind of go a certain way. But I think he kind of wants to get some hardware and be like his father and win a XFinity Series championship first.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. John Hunter is definitely making a case for himself to be a championship driver this year in the Xfinity Series. A couple of years ago, of course, had an opportunity to win the Truck Series championship, but came up short there. But now in Xfinity for Joe Gibbs Racing, so we'll see if he's able to come up with something now and come up with a win here in the championship. So now first time back-to-back wins. So yeah, definitely a dominating performance there. Chandler Smith, who I think I picked as my winner, ended up finishing second, but he qualified on pole. So pretty good effort from there for the rookie driver. Sammy Smith also a good effort there and led a couple laps and won the stage, like you said. Allgaier, I mean, he did pretty good. I mean, it's another solid top 10 finish there. But I think John Hunter winning all the races, it's gonna get more difficult for contenders like Allgaier to try to get up in the standings to overtake for the regular season championship. So he's third in the championship, but still falling behind with every win that John Hunter gets. So I mean, still solid top 10 finish there. I mean, not a lot really happened this race. I mean, a little bit disappointed in Josh Berry's efforts there, going from 3rd to 17th there at the end. But I think there was a little bit of a drama, of course, at the end. Sheldon Creed, Cole Custer getting into it, and then ruining both of their races and finishing in 22nd and 21st and 22nd. So yeah, unfortunate for them there, getting together on the final lap. So I think they both kind of had a disagreement there, but seems like they'll be able to move on from it. But this race, pretty short. I mean, still 10 cautions for various reasons, including the stage. So definitely a lot of small incidents that happened throughout the race. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, John Hunter Nemechek, continuing to dominate this series and showing why he's probably going to be the champion at the end of the year. As long as things go right for him at Phoenix, unlike what they did in the Truck Series a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. He wants to be able to close the deal. His dad, of course, winning the Busch Series title in '92 over the defending series champion Bobby Labonte and Kenny Wallace. Kenny Wallace coming off of the year before where he thought he was going to win the championship, and then he kind of got away from him, and Bobby Labonte was able to sneak by. So those are all names you've got. I mean, Kenny Wallace, we're going to talk about him because he's going to be running at Stafford this Thursday. See, he'll be the first father and son to ever win a championship, the same championship. Because, I mean, Larry Pearson won the Busch Series championship, but he didn't win a Cup one. And Dale Jr. never won a Cup title, but he won the Xfinity title. So there hadn't been a situation like that. So that'd be a good story. Brought up the points briefly. I'll get back into it. I mean, right now, 7 winners. Josh Berry plus 105. Hemrick, Mayer, Sheldon Creed. Creed has got plus 45, which isn't great, which isn't amazing. Herbst is plus 18 on Kligerman. Brett Moffitt's minus 42 off the cutoff, and Buckshot Jones is minus 60. So pretty embarrassing for that team. I mean, JRM has been off all year, but Buckshot Jones showing up and driving the 9 car and not making the playoffs would be pretty bad. and it's lining up that way. But the one thing that's in his favor is we still have 8 races to go before their playoffs start, and they got 3 road courses. You have you have Cookie Cutter at Kansas. You have Michigan, Pocono, and Darlington, which are all unique ovals or triangles or whatever, ones you turn left on. So lot of opportunity, and then of course there's Daytona. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, so got all that done. Start with the SRX series. Came back for the first time in 2023 at Stafford Speedway, and they were running in the lightning basically, and it was a crazy situation there. They ended up getting rained out in the end in the main event. The first, trying to bring it up here, bring that. In Heat 1, Denny Hamlin won over Paul Tracy, Marco Andretti, Bobby Labonte, and Tony Kanaan. Tony Stewart finished 6th. And race 2, Nonek won over Clint Boyer, Brad Keselowski, Harvick, Tracy, and Stewart. And then in the main event, Hamlin beat Newman, who was trying to go for 2 in a row at Stafford. Clint Boyer, Tracy, Haley Deegan, and Marco Andretti, the defending champion of the series. Tony had motor issues and finished 11th. Harv had some sort of mechanical, or I think he hit the wall or some crap. There was some sort of issue for his car, and he had to park. So unfortunate end for him. And the points going into Thursday night's second race at Stafford, since they had to move the race from Thunder Road in Vermont because of the state of emergency. So unfortunate for them. Hopefully, thinking of the people of Vermont trying to go and recover. A lot of flooding, a lot of insane weather has been going on recently for sure. Newman a point ahead of Tracy, and plus 10 on Marco Andretti. And then there's a little bit more separation. Right now, Tony is last amongst the 8 regulars that are going to be in the field, but it's only the separation between himself and Newman is 20 points, but his separation to his buddy Marco is only 10 points. So if he can go and have a decent race on Thursday night, he can get himself right back into the mix. The entry list, have to go over here. SRX, Ryan Preece. So Ryan Preece will be in the SRX race this week and which is one of his basically a legitimate home track for him. And he's won there 9 times, so there you go. 25 top 10s and 6 poles at the track, so there you go. Ryan Preece as 13th entrant, so I mentioned Herminator, Kenny Wallace will be in the race. Daniel Suarez making his SRX debut, so also is Kenny Wallace, Preece. Biffle bringing out his famous number 69 for the first time. 69! And Antoine Kanaan, so there'll be 13 drivers this week in SRX. Formula E, the Rome E-Prix, a lot of craziness went on. There was a huge wreck in race 1. Sam Bird wrecked on basically the fastest part of the racetrack, and in turn there was plenty of carnage that took place after that. Pretty ugly situation, to be fair, and unfortunate for him and unfortunate for everybody that was involved, that got involved in that accident. Going into the last races of the year, they're going to go to the London E-Prix here for the last 2 races of the year, and that'll be next. We'll talk about it next week. Jake Dennis ended up benefiting the 2 guys behind him. scored no points in race 2. He wins the race, so he now has a 24-point lead on Nick Cassidy. Mitch Evans, it's 44 points, and then 49 points to Pascal Wehrlein. And that's essentially where it's at. I mean, I think the maximum you can score in a race is 29, so I think 58. So yeah, those are the 4 guys that can still contend for this championship. In race 1, just go into the results just over the results. Okay, I wanted to do race 13. We'll do that first. In race 13, Mitch Evans won over Nick Cassidy and Max Gunther. So Jaguar, Envision, which is powered by Jaguar, and then Maserati. Jake Dennis was 4th, John-Eric Verne 5th. In the second race, Jake Dennis over Norman Nato and Sam Bird. So Avalanche Andretti with Porsche power, Nissan and Jaguar, Eduardo Motara and Sebastian Buemi rounding out the top 5. Mentioned the points there. We'll see what happens with that. It's going to be hard to beat Jake Dennis if he can get good qualifying run and stay up there and basically be on the bumper of both of those guys that are right there. And in Cassidy and Evans, the 2 Kiwis there running in the Formula E series. In World Superbikes, it was a weekend to forget for Alvaro Bautista. For once, he didn't actually win. So that was nice. Toprak Razgatlioglu ended up getting a couple of wins in the Super Pole in race 2. Bautista crashed in race 2, so gave up a lot of points. Bautista won race 1 over Toprak Razgatlioglu and Johnny Ray. Race 2 was Razgatlioglu, Axel Bassani, and Johnny Ray. In the Super Pole race, Razgatlioglu over Bautista and Andrea Locatelli. So the top 3 guys in points. Toprak Razgatlioglu 70 points behind Bautista right now. Then the battle for 3rd is only 7 points between Locatelli and Ray. Axel Bassani's kind of in his own world. Michael Ruben Rinaldi and Danilo Petrucci are only separated by 12 points. Alex Lowe's, Dominic Argerter, and Javi Vieje round out the top 10. Garrett Gerloff right now in 14th, 5 points behind Iker Lackawanna, and 12 behind Remy Gardner as they move to their next round, which will be in the Czech Republic at the end of the month. So we'll preview that. And then there will be a month break between the Czech round of the World Superbike Championship and then the French the race at Manicourt. Okay, they'll get into the NHRA Mile High Nationals. The last time they'll be racing at Bandimere Speedway for the NHRA, unfortunately. Another racetrack closing, which is disappointing to say the least. You got Mountain Motor Pro Stock. Wonder what kind of car he drove. He's probably driving a Chevy. What a shocker. And he beat Eric Enders, so that's good. That's a good thing when Eric Enders loses. The results at the Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals we'll get into. In Top Fuel was Clay Millican. He's only won 8 rounds all year. Those are the 2 wins he's had this year. Otherwise, he's been knocked out in the first round of every other race. Matt Hagan gets another victory on the mountain for Dodge at one of their sponsored races. Troy Coughlin Jr. gets the win in Pro Stock, and Gage Herrera, after a couple of off races, gets back to what he was doing at the start of the year, which is winning and dominating. In the Too Fast, Too Tasty event, Justin Ashley won in Top Fuel. Matt Hagan won in Funny Car, so he gets a double. And so does Troy Coughlin Jr. Matt Smith won in Pro Stock Motorcycle. So detailed results or ladders there for Top Fuel. Clay Millican ended up beating Doug Coletta in the final there. Millican beat Coletta's teammate Sean Langdon to get to the final. Coletta beat Steve Torrance in the semifinal. Brittany Force ended up smoking the tires and losing to number 16 qualifier Rob Passy. And then Rob Passy got baptized, even though Sean Langdon was dead late, got outrun by or outran Passy to get into the semifinals. Funny car, Hagan gets the win. He got a second round bye after beating Chris King, who didn't even run, it looks like. So he basically got 2 bye runs into the semifinals, had to run and treed Caps by 800ths, and that was the difference because he ran a slower both elapsed time and speed run there. And then he pretty much made up for it in the final because Alexis DeJoria was dead late, was an hour late on her tree, and gets the victory. She got in over J.R. Todd in the semifinal. So she was, her lights were not good the whole entire day. Her lights were really bad, and she got away with it in the first 3 rounds, and Jeff definitely didn't in the final. Pro stock car, Troy Coughlin Jr. gets the victory over Dallas Glenn, who's been one of the dominant figures, of course, this year in the pro stock category. Coughlin beat his teammate Erica Enders in the semifinals. Camry Caruso lost to her teammate Dallas Glenn in the semifinals. So it was Elite versus KB Titan. Elite gets the victory there. Enders had low ET and best reaction time, but top speed went to Troy Coughlin Jr. The last one we'll get into, Pro Stock Motorcycle, of course, mentioned Gage Herrera. He's having a great rookie year. Probably has already won the AAA Road to the Future award. Angie Smith red lit in the final, trying to get him on the tree. Gage Herrera with a good light and gets the win. Hector Arana had mechanical problems in the semifinals. I think if he had gotten into the final, it might have been a much better race than what he ended up having with Angie Smith. Gage Herrera ended up coming from behind to beat Chase Van Zandt in the semifinals. He also beat Matt Smith in the second round. So good job by Herrera to go and make up for some of the issues he's had this season or recently on the tree. Justin Ashley is leading the top field points by 54 over Steve Torrance, 105 over Leah Pruitt, 126 over Brittany Force, and 139 over Austin Prock. Clay Milliken, with his victory, gets himself into the 10th position, 20 points ahead of Sean Langdon. And then you have Tony Schumacher rounding out the rear of the people that has run every week. So 12 cars are going to make the top fuel playoff. Matt Hagan, 45 points ahead of Ron Capps. DeJoria's third, 121 behind Robert Height, 132, and Chad Green, 171. Only 11 points out of Bob Tasco. Cruz Pentragon has got a pretty solid lead, 80 points on Blake Alexander. I think Blake Alexander and Alex Laughlin are probably going to also make the playoffs, even though they're not going to be in the top 10 because they've run every race. Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn, even with the loss, 202 points out of Matt Hartford. Troy Coughlin Jr. with the victory gets to within 204 points. 247 Derek Kramer, 299 Aaron Stanfield. So massive points lead. Not so sure about how many of these cars would make it. Offhand, there's probably way more. I think there'll be more than 12. Looks like there's a possibility of as many as 14. Because Kyle Koretsky is up by 17 points on Bo Butner, and was it 22 points on Jerry Tucker. So that's where that is at. And then did I go? Yeah, Cruz Pentragon, I said that. So Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera also is dominant. 219 point lead on Hector Arana, and then it's further from there. Steve Johnson, Angie Smith, Eddie Krawick, Matt Smith there in 6th, Chase Van Zandt in 7th. Brian Ayler's got a 19 point lead on Kelly Klontz, and Joey Gladstone is up there along with Chip Elliott. So we'll see what's going on with that as we go along, as they'll be racing at Seattle this weekend. Formula 2 and Formula 3 racing at Hungary, accompanying, of course, Formula One. We'll get into F3 first. Their points, Gabriel Bortoleto leading by 36 over Pepe Marti, and then Gabriel Mini, Paul Aaron, and amongst there's a really good mix. Mini, Aaron, Beganovic, Colapinto, and Zach O'Sullivan are only separated by 4 points. Fornioli is 15 points out in 8th. So that's a good mix there. Gregoire Saucy and Goff round out the top 10. Then the standings in Formula 2. Frederick Vesti, 6 points ahead of Teo Pocher, 24 ahead of Iwasa. That's really where the battle is at. Bierman, Martins tied for 4th. Richard Vashore, Jack Doohan, Enzo Fittipaldi, Zane Maloney, and Dennis Hauger rounding out the top 10 in Formula 2. Wouldn't you? I don't know who that is. That's probably somebody with a lot of money. Then in WRC, going into Rally Estonia, home round for Ott Tanak, the 2019 champion. So that's hoping for a result there in the Ford, but I would definitely think that we'll be looking at defending world champion Kalle Rovanperä, who's 41 points ahead of Efren Evans and 42 ahead of Sebastian Ogier, who's a part-timer, and Ott Tanak, Terry Neuville, is 47 points behind in 5th. So we'll see what happens with that at Rally Estonia. Indy NXT will be at Iowa Speedway. Their only oval, I think, that they run the whole year, which is not good preparation for trying to run an IndyCar, I would say. You would think that they would try to put more ovals on the schedule, but instead they run one oval the whole entire year. Or no, they run 2. Okay. All right, so they run 2 oval races, but it's still not enough, honestly. The standings going into results, championship standings, Nolan Siegel is up by 16 points on Christian Rasmussen. Hunter McElroy is in 3rd. Louis Foster 4th, and Jacob Abel in 5th. Reese Gold 6th. Daniel Frost, James Rokiffin Simpson, Inam Ahmed round out the top 10. What is it? It's HMD and Andretti. Andretti, and Abel Motorsport, of course, with Jacob Abel. The one person in there that's Cape, and so there you go. Abel, so he's got family money. Look at that. Rasmus Lind is driving for Juncos Hollander with Matteo Nannini. All right, interesting. And then the IMSA GTD, it's their standalone race they run at Lime Rock this weekend. No prototypes because of the size of the track. So we'll get into the FCP Euro Northeast Grand Prix. There's 20, it'll be a 20-car field there. Then they're running, the VP Sports Car Challenge. You're going to have 17 cars, 6 P3s and 11 GSX cars. The Michelin Pilot Challenge is a TCR-only event, 14 cars in that field. The 5 GT Pro cars, the Corvette Racing Team, Garcia and Taylor, Klaus Bachler, Patrick Pile, the Pfaff Motorsports Porsche, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Jack Hawksworth, Ben Barnicoat, Ross Gunn, Alex Riberas for Harder Racing Aston, and then Daniel Juncadella, Jules Gunan in the WeatherTech Mercedes. Then in the GTD category, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, and the Paul Miller BMW. Frankie Montecalvo, Aaron Teal, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Roman DeAngelis, Marco Sorensen, Harder Racing Aston, Mike Skeen, Mikhail Grenier, Team Korthoff Motorsports Mercedes, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Windward Racing Mercedes, Sheena Monk, who was posting on her Instagram and posted quite an interesting photo a couple days ago, looking pretty hot, and Catherine Legg in the Gradient Racing JG Wentworth Acura, Brendan Rebe and Frederick Schandorf in the Inception McLaren, Alan Brynjolfsson and Trent Hinman in the Wright Motorsports Porsche, Misha Goikberg and Laura Spinelli, Forte Racing Lamborghini, the AO Racing Porsche, Seb Prio, PJ Hyatt, Alan Metney and Kay Van Berlo for Kelly Moss with Riley Porsche, David Brule, Alec Udell and the sister Kelly Moss Riley Porsche. Jared Andretti and Gabby Chavez are going to run their Aston Martin again this weekend. Last time they made an appearance with that car, it got destroyed at Laguna Seca by a prototype when Jared Andretti crashed into the pit. Patrick Gallagher and Robbie Foley in one of two Turner Motorsport BMWs, Bill Auberl and Chandler Hull in the sister Turner Motorsports BMW. Alrighty, now to go and do our amazing Formula One coverage here, the Hungarian Grand Prix. I mean, I don't know who picked first, Josh, last week. It was...
Well, we didn't have Formula One last week.
Well, no, but I'm just going because...
I picked first. Yeah,
so... All right, so I picked Max Verstappen, and I'll pick Max Verstappen for the rest of the year and probably for the next 2 years. At this point, I don't think it really is much to do. It's much hubbadoo about nothing. We know he's going to win. Podium behind him is interesting. I mean, Lewis is really good there, but I figure, can McLaren keep that momentum? Can Aston Martin be rousted from slumber since they've been in one for I don't know how many races? Ferrari's kind of always like sneaking around. I'm gonna go Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris to be my podium picks for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Oh, I actually picked Truex to win. Look at that. So how about you, Josh? What are you looking for from the Hungarian Grand Prix?
Well, you talked about Lewis. I mean, they've been pretty good as of late. And of course, Max Verstappen winner, so we got them both there to get our locked in pick there. But behind him, yeah, it's kind of murky. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say Sergio Perez finally has a good qualifying effort and gets on the podium back in second place. And so he's been having problems qualifying, but he's still second in the standings, so he's still formidable, but just qualifying is an issue for him. So I'll go with him there in second. And then third, I'm going to go with Lando Norris in third. They've continue to upgrade their car. They've got more upgrades coming this weekend here for McLaren at Hungary. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Lando. I think they're kind of on a run right now. So let's see what McLaren can do. See if they can get another podium, third place to get back on track for their season and become more competitive.
Yeah, and I mean when you look at the standings, Sergio Perez needs a good run. I mean he's only 19 points ahead of Fernando Alonso. He's 35 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So that battle for the number 2 spot in the World Championship, Drivers' World Championship, is still very much in play. Carlos Sainz, George Russell, Charles Leclerc only separated by 9 points. Lando Norris looking to overtake Lance Stroll this weekend for 8th. And then, that will be something to look at in terms of constructors. Mercedes is 22 points ahead of Aston Martin. Ferrari is 21 and 24 points behind Aston Martin. So we'll see what happens with the constructors there. McLaren has a 12-point lead on Alpine, and then it's very tight between the last 4 teams. Daniel Ricciardo returns to Formula One to drive the AlphaTauri. So we'll see if that makes much of a difference. I have a hard time believing it will, but he gets a free roll for the last 12 races of the season to kind of make a case for himself. Maybe to get a ride for next year in an AlphaTauri. Maybe it's to continue the testing. Who knows? But we will see what happens with that. Iowa doubleheader. One practice on Friday, then they have qualifications on Saturday morning and the race on Saturday afternoon. Recent winners in the doubleheader, Joseph Newgarden and Pato O'Ward last year won. I mean, Joseph Newgarden probably should have won both of them. Simon Pagenaud and Joseph Newgarden won the 2 races in 2020, Newgarden in 2019. James Hinchcliffe, I think, was his last win as of now of his IndyCar career. You had Elio Castro-Neves in 2017. The win in 2016 of Joseph Newgarden after he got jacked up at Texas was probably the sealed the deal for him to go and get into Penske Racing. Captain America, Ryan Hunter-Reay in 2015 and 14. Hinch in 13, 12. So 3-time winner, Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's a great short oval driver. So, and going back further and further. Yeah, so that's that. I'm curious as to this the stats. Do they have the event, like they usually have detail, like event detail or driver performance. They haven't put that up yet, unfortunately. Josh, you get to go first. I mean, think basically parked one of the guys I think is a logical favorite, a guy who's won there multiple times. But what say you on Iowa Speedway this weekend?
Well, I mean, personally for me, I'm going to have to continue to go with Joseph Newgarden on the ovals. Based on what he's done this year, he won Texas, won Indianapolis 500, of course. Of course, last year dominated this race on Saturday and won. And then Sunday should have won, except had the problem with the loose wheel and crashed out of the race and was on his way to win that one. So I'm going to go with Newgarden here, winning really both races. I think he can win both races and put a bit of a dent into Palou's championship lead here. We'll see how much, but it would be a big leapfrog if he's able to do it there. So we'll see if he's able to pull that off. I think wild card in this race, or doubleheader. I mean, I think you got to look at somebody like Graham Rahal. We talked about him and how his season has gone. So I'll pick Graham Rahal wild card in this first race, and then we'll go with I'm going to go with David Malukas in this other the other second race. See what he can do on this short track. Liked what he was able to do at Gateway last year. Different track, but I like his driving style on the ovals as well. So let's see what he's able to do this weekend.
All right, so Graham Rahal has one of the better averages. He's run outside of Scott Dixon and Ed Carpenter. He's tied with Ed Carpenter for second most races at Iowa Speedway. 16 races, 11 top 10s, 4 top 5. So that isn't a far reach. Malukas got a top 1 out of 2 races. He got a top 10 there. I mean, I'm going to go with, and it's not a fandom pick, it's just how good he is there, Pato O'Ward. I'll pick to win. The McLaren team has not won a race this year, which is crazy to think. But he'll end that string on Saturday, win R1, and I'll say Joseph Newgarden wins race 2. Then in terms of the wild card picks, excuse me. It's a good question. Wild card picks. I mean, you picked 2 good ones there. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to justify Marcus Ericsson as a wild card, but he's only won one oval race, and of course, it's the biggest one of all. You wouldn't think, or people wouldn't think, that he would be as good on short ovals, but actually in 5 starts at Iowa Speedway, he has 4 top 10s. And so that's pretty solid. He's ran at the finish of every single one of those races as well, which, I mean, it's to be able to get through every single race there when you consider how hard it is to drive, how rough, traffic. I figure Ericsson. I'll say him as a wild card, and the other wild card driver I will say for this weekend. That's not valid there. I mean it's also a reach, but Scott McLaughlin isn't exactly known for short oval prowess either. But he's driving a Penske car, and eventually he's got to figure it out, and it's a good time to figure it out to get himself back in the mix for a top 5 finish in the points. So we'll go with Ericsson, wild card R1, and McLaughlin, wild card race 2. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Okay, now the NASCAR triple header at Pocono Raceway. Weather already is out there. Friday is going to be a washout. Hopefully it stays as Friday and not Saturday, because it would really bum me out. Let's see. You got to pick first there for the truck for now, so we'll do the trucks. What's it called? Tyler or Austin Hill's going to be in the 7 for Spire if they are able to qualify, or based on owner points. I don't know how it would work. Who would go home based on that? Kligerman probably would go home. Christopher Bell probably would go home in a second Hattori truck, because they've only run one race. Doza in the 28 probably goes home, because you have 39 for 36. The Spire truck might or might not be in play in terms of going home there. So those are all kind of drivers you have to see maybe that could get knocked off because of the rain. I'm picking Kyle Busch, because why not? He's in a truck race, so I'll just assume he's going to win. And you look at the point standings and current situation. And only report around. I don't know where they have the points. Race results points. There you go. Truck series results so far this year. We got this is the last race of the regular season. So after Saturday's race, the playoffs will be set. As it stands right now, that's not correct. That's from 2022. That helps. Gotta love that. I was trying to find the truck 2023 truck results. Okay, let's do that. Try that. Pocono and actually Richmond. Sorry. So Pocono and Richmond before Indianapolis Raceway Park in a few weeks' time. So they haven't done the results. They don't post that. Okay. All right. So right now, Corey Heim leads the overall points standings by 26 over Zane Smith, Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, Grant Infinger, Christian Eckes, all but Ty Majeski amongst that group, and then you add Carson Hocevar. That's basically the majority of the wins there. 11 wins so far in the 14 races amongst that group of 7 drivers, for the exception of Ty Majeski, of course. But he's going to make the playoffs. He doesn't have to worry about it. The real interesting battle is from 8th on back. 8th through 11th is separated by 5 points. So Matt DiBurrito, Nick Sanchez, and Matt Crafton are all in right now. Stuart Friesen's a point behind. Once you get past those guys, you need to win. I picked Kyle Busch to win the race. So he's a 17 there, and then the top 10. Who could go and pull one out of his ass and win at Pocono? That's a tough one. It actually is tough. In theory, I could do that, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go with Taylor Gray. I'm gonna say Taylor Gray gets his first career win at Pocono. He does have the ARCA experience there, and gives himself an opportunity to make the playoffs with a victory. Get 2 drivers from Tricon into the playoffs as of now, if that were to happen. So, Kyle Busch, Taylor Gray, truck picks for me. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'll go with Chris Bell winning in the Hattori 61. If Kyle Busch can't win, I think he'll be up front. And another Cup favorite there. So, wild card. I'll go with my guy, old favorite Raja Caruth. I think this is a good track for him. He of course he had that spin out in Xfinity a couple years ago or last year. So, but he's been this year I feel like he's been better on the bigger tracks, throughout the years. So I think he could be a wild card, maybe get a good top 10 or top 15 finish here this weekend.
All right. So hopefully, if the rain holds off and they're able to actually qualify, I'm pretty sure that that they'll be able to get that 61 truck into the field. Let's move forward into the Xfinity series. The Explore the Pocono Mountains 225, 41 cars for 38 spots in that race as well. So three vehicles will go home. I think I mentioned everybody of significance over there on the truck side. I might have missed something, but William Clyde Elliott II is going to be running or attempt to run the 17 for Hendrick Motorsports. You have Ty Dillon driving the number 3 for RCR. Stephen Parsons back in the 07 for SS Greenlight. David Starr, the 180-year-old, will be in the 08. Doesn't have anybody listed in the 10 car. It might be listed on their page. It doesn't say anything. No. So they don't have anything as of now for who's going to drive the 10 car. Our colleague, Corey Heim will be in the Sam Hunt 24 this week, so he'll be doing double duty on Saturday. And Graf will be in the 38 this week for Emmerling or for RSS. That means the 28 will be Kyle Sieg. You have Sage Karam in his home game will be driving the Alpha Prime 44. Patrick Emmerling will be running for himself there in the 53. Timmy Hill try to attempt to make the race in the 66 for Carl Long. Dawson Cram back again in the CHK Racing 74. Chad Chastain in the DGM 91. And yeah, so that's basically all those drivers there. Josh, you get to go first on this one.
So this weekend here, we got a lot of picks. I'm going to go with Hendrick here, go with Chase Elliott. He needs a win in Cup, and we've seen the Hendrick entry on Saturday go on and win on Sunday like we did last year with Kyle Larson. So Chase Elliott, definitely needs to win this weekend, put some Chase energy into that season for him to maybe kickstart his run to the playoffs. So if he wins Xfinity, look for him to have some confidence on Sunday to get a win. So, we'll go with him winning this weekend in Xfinity, and then wild card. There's a lot of interesting choices that we could go here, but I'm gonna go with why not? We'll go with Josh Williams. It's an interesting pick here, but he's had some good success as of late. So let's see, maybe he can steal a top 15 or something out of possibly on fuel mileage or something this weekend here.
Yeah, he's run an ARCA many times before there. He has plenty of experience at Pocono, so it isn't out of the realm. I think they're probably saving their energy more for Daytona here in a few weeks' time, but Pocono can lead to fuel mileage. It's been one of those kind of tracks. I'm going to go and pick John Hunter Nemechek. It's chalk. He's been on a heater. It'll be third consecutive victory if he does it at 3 different types of tracks. You had New Hampshire last week, and then you think about the race before is Atlanta on a super speedway. Then you have Pocono, which is a big track, but you're shifting. Would definitely be an interesting one there if he can go and get another victory. And I'm going to go And you know what? I can do it because he's a limited schedule. I'm going to say Ty Dillon. The guy needs all the help he can get. He's driving for Pop Pop. His older brother's driving like shit. And of course, Ty Dillon's running like Ty Dillon in a cup car. So it wouldn't hurt him to go and run well in that Xfinity car. For some reason, I feel like he won at Pocono in an ARCA car years ago. But if he did or didn't, it doesn't matter. It's a good opportunity for him, though. I was debating it. I mean, I was looking at it. It was going to go all Toyota, either with like Heim or Connor Mozak, who's in the 19. But why not with Ty Dillon? He needs all the help he can get. In terms of driving, he's doing just fine at home, for sure. Cup Series at Pocono. Last but not least, the High Point 400 at Pocono Raceway, sponsor highpoint.com 400, sponsor, longtime sponsor for Chase Briscoe. So that's pretty good there. There are only 36 cars, so no bumping, no issues there. JJ Ailey will be back in the 15 for Rick Ware. Custer will be back in the 51 for Rick Ware. McLeod driving for himself in the 78. So Worldwide Express for Chastain, Menards, and Lidman, the brooms or whatever mop company for Gumby. Brestry for Bald Spot Dillon. Busch Light Peach, since they're going to be making Busch Light watermelon soon. Busch Light Peach for Harvick. King's Hawaiian for Brad Keselowski. TBD on sponsorship for Corey LaJoy and Kyle Busch. Eric Almirola is sponsored by Ford. Denny Hamlin continuing his Northeast run will have Mavis tires on his car again. Blaney will have Advanced. Chase Briscoe running the sponsor of the race, highpoint.com, located here in New Jersey. Action Industries for AJ Allmendinger. Wyndham Rewards for Chris Buescher. Interstate Batteries on the 19. Yahoo will be back on the 20 for Christopher Bell. Dex Imaging for Harrison Burton. Verizon Frontline on the 22 for Joey Logano. Not a Shell Pennzoil race, which is rare. Lidos for Bubba Wallace. A Raptor on the 24 for Byron. Justin Haley doesn't have anything listed. McDowell, Benny Bone, I think it's something, it's dog bones or something. Speedy Cash on the 38 for Todd Gilliland. Mohawk Northeast back on the 41 for Ryan Preece. U.S. Air Force this weekend for that Jones boy. Jordan Brand. Oh, that would be cool. I have to get a picture of that. If he's running that Carolina Blue Jordan Brand car, that'd be badass. Blue Buffalo for Richard. Alex Bowman running the Ally Best Friend scheme. Ty Dillon running the Gamebridge colors, since they're going to alternate running the Gamebridge colors from week to week for the rest of the season. And then Daniel Suarez running jockey colors in the 99. So I'll go first here. It's a difficult choice here. I mean, there's a lot of guys you would think could contend. I mean, Hendrick, and right now the Toyotas are on a heater. But, like for 2311, as Josh mentioned, they've been inconsistent, but they're starting to pick it up again. Truex has had a solid year. Sonoma's been one of his best racetracks, and he won there. He's got the Northeast doubled so far with New Hampshire and Dover. So I'm going to go and say that Martin Truex Jr. is going to win at Pocono and get the triple at another one of his home tracks to win. And my wild card, which is no bias and with no statistical backing other than he has won there once, is Chase Briscoe. Just trying to go and get a Hail Mary at Pocono. I mean, his car owner and hero once clutch and coasted his way to a victory at Pocono. It was about 14 years ago. So stranger things have.
Kansas? Or no, that was
at Pocono.
At Pocono. Yep.
That was his first points
owner
win
driver.
as an owner. And he did it also at Kansas. It became a thing for like 3 years where Tony would do the clutch the thing in and run it for the fuel. So I mean, Briscoe's run well there in the past in Xfinity and in trucks. You know, you need to get a Hail Mary. This is a track to go and do it because you can kind of get crazy with strategy. So I'm pretty sure they're not going to qualify well. So we'll see about that. How about you, Josh?
I mean, yeah, I was thinking about Chase Briscoe there. You're going to be there and everything. So if he wins, I mean, you better have that on video, especially with friends and everything.
No,
so.
I won't be. Yeah, I won't be there on Sunday. I'll be here. I'll be home on Sunday.
Oh, okay. So. Well, either way. So, well, you'll wish if he wins on Sunday, you'll wish you were there.
I wish I was there. Yeah, definitely.
No, but my winner this weekend. I'll go. I guess I'm gonna go Toyota as well. I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick Tyler Reddick this weekend. I think they've had good speed on the bigger tracks this year. We saw, back at Charlotte, they had good speed there. So I think bigger tracks, I think they've had pretty good speed, especially with the Toyotas and everything. So pick him to win, and then wild card. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Let's see. Well, I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, I could pick Chase Elliott, but I don't want to because I really don't know how he's going to do this weekend. So, I'm going to pick AJ Allmendinger. Colleague's been solid as of late. Did have a bit of bump in the road in New Hampshire, but they've had some pretty solid results besides that. So, yeah, I'll go with Adder Allmendinger as my wild card this weekend.
Yeah, and he's still in the mix points-wise. I mean, last week didn't help him, but when you look at the lay of the land races-wise, he's done all right at Richmond over time. Michigan isn't a bad track for him, and then you have 2 road courses after that, plus Daytona, and then Pocono is, they always say it's kind of like a road course, so if he can get a good handle on the car in a limited practice, you never know. Can happen there. Alrighty, so with that, Len, you get to open the floor to Josh for the sim segment. Let us know what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming. Formula One, they got F123 and then other stuff going on. So let us know what's going on there.
Yeah, of course. The iRacing stuff this week. I mean, pretty much all the series at Pocono this weekend for the Cup, Truck, Xfinity, all at Pocono Raceway. So probably going to hit up at least Xfinity and on the Cup car, see how we do. I definitely like Pocono. It's one of my favorite tracks to run on. So I'll definitely be on that one. The 87 cars are on the Daytona road course from 2008. So that should be interesting, especially with the big braking zones and everything. Interestingly enough, the open wheel Indy Pro 2000 series, not the Indy cars, but like I guess that's their version of the road, one of the road to Indy cars. It might be the Indy NXT, but it's that car at Iowa Speedway this weekend, so almost mimicking the real schedule, even though they're not really allowed to do that anymore per se. You've got open wheel. You've got Arca Menards also at Iowa Speedway this weekend. Ferrari GT3 at Laguna Seca. Got see what else? You got open wheel. Okay, yeah, open wheel C at Phoenix Raceway. So they'll be racing the Dallara IRA team racing at Phoenix Raceway this weekend. Gen 4 also at Pocono. So that should be fun as well. Repaved Pocono with the Gen 4 car going 9,000 RPM at 800 horsepower, so that should be fun. The GT Endurance Series at Spa. Got the Formula Fords at Oldham Park Speedway, and Carburetor Cup at Michigan Speedway. So yeah, definitely a lot of choices there on iRacing. And then of course special events. Of course they've got the Firecracker 400, always one of the more popular events going on this week in iRacing. Or well, last week they did the prelims and eliminators, and I think this week might be the qualifying. So been watching that one, watching the streams. Always good and entertaining to see some of the iRacing stars and everything, and some of the stars and Cup, stars in NASCAR, IndyCar come out for this. Saw Connor Daly on there, and I think he was struggling, and I think he made it into his prelim event, but then I think he didn't make it into the final, the qualifying group, the top 88 as they call it. So I think he was out of it on that one. He definitely was struggling and handling in his main event for the prelims there. So that was pretty interesting to watch there. And yeah, he did Connor actually missed a wreck and barely missed a car flying through the air through the Daytona Tri-Oval. So that was pretty interesting to watch there. Yeah, F1 23, still need to get that one, so maybe get it soon. So we'll definitely try to get that one on there. Probably get it soon. Also, of course, they did have Prime Day last week, so it was a good opportunity to get Logitech wheel if you were in need of one. So of course it's already passed, but it might be an opportunity later on in the year if you're still looking for a wheel or something. So definitely iRacing. There's definitely a lot to do this week on throughout all the different series, and I think definitely be trying to hit up Pocono as always. Like that track, like to be able to shift through the corners. Next gen car definitely going to have a lot of draft down the big long straights as well. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we get into a fuel mileage situation and have to force the guy to run out of gas. And it's always entertaining. One of the more interesting aspects of Pocono is being able to run out of gas, or well, not you, but other people watching them run out of gas, and makes it a lot more interesting. So yeah, we'll see how the fuel strategy goes this weekend. But yeah, as always, if I stream, yes, go on Twitch TV/UCaylor2 and go on there and win, or go on there and watch, and well, hopefully I win. So we'll see how that goes. So of course, as always, glad to be able to get on and discuss racing and everything. And of course, since I'm actually home this week, I'll put the number 3 Sundrop car on camera if it unblurs itself. So there, it's pretty cool and everything. So as always, thanks for that. Really nice car. So glad to be able to have that. So of course, myself, follow on Twitter at JP Huffine. Go on there and follow all my takes and everything, all my interests and stuff. I mean, we got, as mentioned at the top of the show, football training camp coming back into swing here. So probably have some takes later on, or in the near future, about Jacksonville's chances. I think they're going to be really good. I'm buying the hype. To be honest, last year I wasn't, but this year, going into training camp, definitely buying the hype, and definitely think we'll be there. So look out for more content on that. So definitely going to be interesting there. And of course, YouTube. You can follow our podcast, Group Share Podcast. Go in there and like and subscribe. Of course, we got our Tommy Kendall interview from a month ago now, so definitely had a lot of views on that. So definitely go in there, check out that one, and other all of our other podcasts and video streams that we have on there. But yeah, of course, thanks as always, and glad to be able to do it.
Absolutely, brother. Wouldn't do it with anyone else. We always have a good time here, and do a great job on the back end, of course, with our sound and on the show, and also with the video feed on our YouTube page, Gripstrip Podcast. So definitely go and see that there. You can find me at PG Matthew 28. You can find the Gripstrip Podcast at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. You can find the Gripstrip Podcast on philipgmatthew.com, which is my blog site. It's also on Podbean, which is our host site. this week I'll be at Poconos. I'll have some stuff coming back from that. Hopefully I get some cool diecasts, if they're not an arm and a leg, or some cool merch, and then get to see some racing. First time in 4 years I've been to a race, so it'll be pretty cool to get a full day's worth of action there. So yeah, we'll be back next week with episode 179 of the GSP, talking about IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One. Very busy roundup as per usual. We'll preview the Belgian Grand Prix for Formula One, their last race before the summer break. Cup and Trucks will be at Richmond. I mentioned the truck regular season finale there. And then the XFinity series will be on a standalone at Road America. So don't know if they're going to have, I don't know if they do modified pit stops like they do in trucks, but might come up there. So we'll see how that goes. So for Josh, I'm Phil. We'll see you next week for episode 179 of the Grip Strip Podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Like, subscribe, follow, etc., etc. We'll see you next week.